the 20s and 30s. Normal highs, 50s for the northern tier states, but to the south, certainly a little warmer. Are we going to be near normal? Well, let's take a look and see your highs on Friday. Certainly below seasonal norms here across the northern half of the country. Highs only in the 30s and 40s, so it's not going to feel much like April. It's going to be a little on the chilly side, and you'll see that on into Saturday as well. Warmest temperatures in the southeast, although that may be a bit overdone as well. Wet weather, unsettled conditions, maybe even some heavy amounts of precipitation on into your Friday. Here we go into Saturday. Rain, scattered thunderstorms. Quiet to the north, but again, something we're going to watch through this part of the country is around Hoquiam, Minnesota, because of snowmelt and recent heavy rains. Stay tuned. Your 5-day forecast is coming up next.
It's the Carol Wright Shopper's Best Award.
The Weather Channel. No place on earth has better weather.
Well, with quite a weekend in the upper Midwest with a blizzard.
Sharon, Resultan.
Well, let's go ahead and show you some scenes now as we take you on up toward the Red
River Valley in North Dakota, and we're going to find some of the worst flooding maybe along the North Dakota-Minnesota border. The Red River is filled with ice jams and has already spilled over its banks into bordering farmland. That water has also frozen, so it's hard to distinguish where the ice-covered river ends and begins. The river is expected to crest as we head into the Fargo area and in East Grand Forks sometime this weekend. And it will crest at least 20 feet above flood stage on both locations. These will be record crests, and severe flooding is expected. Folks there anticipating those problems and already sandbagging that particular region. Let's go ahead and take a look first at the big picture as we head out west, and you'll be able to see that we indeed do have quite a bit to talk about here into the upper Midwest. There is no doubt about that, as we find still a little bit of snow here, which is really just adding insult to injury. The winds have subsided, as Warren mentioned, still some breezy conditions here, but not the kind of stuff that you saw throughout the latter portion of the weekend. Still a little bit of snow falling here. Temperatures, and we'll talk more about this in the forecast, look like they're going to remain cool, but perhaps just above freezing during the daytime hours, that more additional melting may occur. Right now, though, very chilly. Fargo at 12, Bismarck
off the northeast coast. Temperatures are falling in Boston. You had high in the 70s today. It's now back into the mid-50s, and the winds are kind of breezy out of the northwest. Our temperature is 56 right now in Boston, for example. 60 New York City. You move.
The wind chills are dropping as well. Rochester now reporting a wind chill of 14 degrees, and Sault Ste. Marie with those gusty winds, a wind chill
Of minus 18. Meanwhile, across the southeast, high pressure in control. It's kind of cool. Had some showers in front of this cold front. They seem to have dissipated now. Temperature is still not bad in Florida. Miami, 75 degrees. 55 in Atlanta right now. 54 in Little Rock. And Houston, Texas, 65 degrees. Let's check in on the flooding situation in the upper Midwest now with Sharon Resultan.
Thanks, Warren. Calmer weather did return to the upper Midwest today, but it's still very cold, and the potential for flooding continues to be a concern. Now, some of the worst flooding might be along the North Dakota-Minnesota border. The Red River is filled with ice jams and has already spilled over its banks into bordering farmland. That water has also frozen, so it's hard to distinguish where the ice-covered river begins and ends. The river is expected to crest in Fargo and in East Grand Forks sometime this weekend. It will crest at least 20 feet above flood stage in both locations. These will be record crests, and severe flooding is expected. Those are some nasty pictures taken out of the upper Midwest Northern Plains region. Let's show you what's going on there right now. Fortunately, no additional precipitation. Yes, there are a few snow showers, but nothing that's really going to cause any additional problems here. Of course, the big problem is going to be the thawing out time, and we'll be checking with the forecast coming up, heading you on into tomorrow, see if we're going to find any warmer temperatures here. But what is still going on across this region, still looking at some pretty cold air, as we alluded to earlier. 19 into Minneapolis, 9 right now around Fargo, 9 also into Duluth. Chilly too as we head on into Bismarck and Minot, you name it. Even Chicago on the chilly side at 37 degrees. Doesn't seem much like spring or April there in the Windy City. You factor in the winds, it feels like 18 in Chicago, 15 below in Duluth, 9 below in Minneapolis, and 23 below heading into Fargo. So some nasty, nasty cold air, and some winds that are still enough to produce some pretty bitter cold wind chills in some cases. As we look at the picture here, we'll be able to see that we're also looking at a little bit of light precipitation heading here into the Pacific Northwest. There is an upper level disturbance, but there's also just a bit of an onshore flow that's keeping some of the showers going. This will be a factor for you overnight into Portland, back down into Salem, just a little bit of some light rain. So keep in mind that some of the highways and some of the roadways may be a bit on the slick side due to the rainfall there. But a better batch of moisture is moving on into Texas, and look at that fetch coming in out of the southwest, drawing in quite a bit of moisture, so that the radar picture is looking like this. Each time we look at it, it looks a little more active, with the rain creeping into Brownsville, moving up into Laredo. Eventually, we think this moisture is going to be spreading over much of the Lone Star State. And we're going to see now with Warren whether or not it's going to be a wet Tuesday for you in Dallas. Warren?
Well, sorry to say, for those of you hoping for a dry day in Dallas, that it will be looking fairly wet, especially as we work our way into the later part of the day on Tuesday. As you can see, as we start the day, we do have some moisture across the state of Texas, courtesy of that southerly flow off the Gulf of Mexico. Meanwhile, here in the eastern slopes of the Rockies, we'll have some winds moving up the Rockies, and that means some snow, upslope snow, and we'll be watching that develop through the day. This little low pressure system, watch. Here it is Tuesday morning around Chicago. It zips pretty quickly. By midday, it's bearing down on Philadelphia. Some light snow across the eastern lakes as it moves by. Meanwhile, you can see that Texas starting to see that rain drawn up. Dallas, you're in that area. So is Oklahoma City for that area, Wichita Falls. Maybe a few showers down to the south, Florida. Here around Miami, you could see maybe a shower or two as that cold front pushes on and hangs around through the day on Tuesday afternoon. Here's your snow from western Kansas up into western Montana. That's that upslope flow. And here across the northwest, also some snow at the higher elevations, rain lower elevations as our next low starts to develop. Okay, rainfall amounts heaviest here in southern portions of Texas as that rain comes on in off the Gulf. Also here across Oklahoma into the Red River Valley, and we'll be seeing some scattered amounts also across the west. There's your upslope from Nebraska all the way up into Montana through the noontime period on Tuesday. Lows very chilly, getting down below zero across the northern plains. And as we head into the day on Tuesday, it's only going to warm up into the 20s across much of the northern plains. Our 60s and 70s confined to the Carolina coast on down into the southeast and over into California.
Okay, so the nasty cold sticks around and getting wetter in parts of the south. We're going to check on your travel weather when we return.
This is your local forecast, weather information you can plan on, because we show it on the 8s of every hour. Local on the 8s on the Weather Channel.
A lot of people want to know what makes Bush's baked beans taste so darn good. Roll that beautiful bean footage. Some think it's our specially cured bacon, our fine brown sugar, or our delicate blend of spices. But the real reason our baked beans taste so good is the Bush Secret Family recipe, which I've shared with only one other soul, and he's not talking.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Uh-oh. Great tasting Bush's baked beans. No one bakes them better.
Honey, my meeting's running late, so you need to start the pot roast. Come on, you can handle it. Just open the bag and season. Add water and seasoning, toss in veggies. The roast bastes itself in the bag, so it'll come out tender and juicy. Now feel up to tossing a salad.
For mouth-watering meals without the mess, flavor up with McCormick Bag and Season. Perfectly tender, perfectly seasoned every single time.
I'll be home soon. Think you could start without me?
If you're hitting the highways, hitting the flyways, taking the bus, taking the train, or just wondering what's going to be happening across this nation, time for TravelWise as we try to fill you in on what to expect. Currently, a wintertime weather pattern trying to set up here as cold high pressure has moved down from Canada. Still some blustery winds and some light snow across portions of the Great Lakes. And we're starting to see some rain now returning into Texas. It'll be popping up on the map here. We're starting to see it on the radar. In fact, as we look at the radar, it's fairly easy to see right down in the Brownsville area heading up towards Laredo. We're seeing more rain coming in across the Rio Grande, and that's definitely not good news. Eastern Texas and southern Texas has seen far too much rain recently. We're also seeing some showers trying to work their way across southern Missouri right now. Some light scattered showers across the Portland area, and also a few showers down around Miami and over into the Everglades. Our rainy travel forecast, though, our trouble spot through noon on Tuesday is across the state of Texas into the Red River Valley into Oklahoma. So if you're traveling east or west on I-20 or I-10 or north or south on I-35, watch out. Some rain in your forecast. Could see some strong thunderstorms rumbling through western Texas into eastern New Mexico through noon on Tuesday. And also here in portions of northwestern Arizona around the Grand Canyon, southwestern portions of Utah, and extreme southeastern Nevada around Las Vegas. And as we look to our rainy travel, there's our trouble spot, as we mentioned. Also, some rain expected here in the Grand Canyon area, across western Oregon, and here in northern Idaho and in the Puget Sound area. Where will it be snowy through noon on Tuesday? Well, we're looking at some upsloping, some winds moving up the Rocky Mountains, and that's going to produce some snow here from Nebraska on up into Montana through noon on Tuesday. A little bit here in the Cascades of Oregon, southern Wasatch, portions of the Rockies in Colorado, and a little bit downwind of the Lakes Ontario and Erie, and here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, picking up a little bit of lake effect snow this late in the season. It's still going to be windy through noon Tuesday from the New England coast through the Great Lakes and into the upper Midwest and the northern plains, and a few spots here in Nevada, southeastern portions of Idaho, and right here in southeastern Wyoming. Coming up next is your Weekend Outlook.
So then Doris is driving it, and she says, "But Elliot, I can't feel the road." And I said, "But what do you expect? It's a luxury car." Anyway, we then drive it down to the Grove. Have you ever driven that?
Bored with traditional luxury? It could be time for the supercharged Bonneville, one of the world's most powerful sports sedans.
Do you drive a luxury car, Frank?
You bet your ascot I do.
Luxury with attitude. The Bonneville by Pontiac.
My mama comes over and says, "Lemon, didn't I teach you nothing cleans like Pine Sol?" I said, "Mama, I use Lemon Fresh Pine Sol. It has the power of Pine Sol with a fresh lemon scent." Mama says, "Honey, you can take your Lemon Fresh Pine Sol and clean my house anytime."
Think of your favorite coffee. Now make it better. Richer, creamier. With Carnation Coffee Mate flavors like classic French vanilla or nutty amaretto. Your cup, your Coffee Mate.
Know what to expect. Watch our 5-day planner 20 minutes after every hour on the Weather Channel. No place on earth has better weather.
We're looking into the weekend now, and we start off with the jet stream, and we'll be seeing our big trough that's now in the center of the United States moving to the east coast by Wednesday, and a new trough developing in the southern jet stream here across the southwest. Now, as we move a little farther out to Saturday, Note that our southern trough hasn't moved all that much farther eastward, and our northeastern trough is still in place as well. Translation of all of this means some slow-moving weather patterns. Let's look at what normally we can expect to have here on this weekend. Normally, we'd see lows in the 50s along the Gulf Coast, stretching up to the 30s along the Canadian border of the northern plains, and our normal highs for the weekend would stretch from the 70s and even the 80s to the 40s. That's what we typically expect. But here's what we're going to get. Highs on Friday only in the 30s across much of the northern plains into the northern Rockies. 60s and 70s confined to the southeast and the southwest. New England may get to the 50s in southern New England, much of northern New England in the 40s and even the 30s. And that's the story also for Saturday as our cold weather continues across the north. Across the south, rain continues from the southeast all the way back into the Mississippi River Valley, the Red River Valley, Texas, and into the Four Corners area with some snow showers in the northern portions and the higher elevations, and still rainy in the same locations for your Saturday. Your spring weather update when we come back.
A lot of people want to know what makes Bush's baked beans taste so darn good. Roll that beautiful bean footage. Some think it's our specially cured bacon, our fine brown sugar, or our delicate blend of spices. But the real reason our baked beans taste so good is the Bush Secret Family recipe, which I've shared with only one other soul, and he's not talking.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Uh-oh. Great tasting Bush's baked beans. No one bakes them better.
WeatherScope. It's all the weather you want. Every 30 minutes on the hour and half hour on the Weather Channel.
Don't fool around with Mother Nature. When it comes to severe weather, be prepared. Call 1-900-WEATHER. No place on earth has better weather.
There's only one fishing lure proven to catch all these fish and virtually every species of game fish in North America. It's the Banjo Minnow, the world's first and only genetic response fishing lure.
Hello everybody, I'm Bill Dance. Well, I'm here to tell you the Banjo Minnow is truly the most exciting thing I've seen in a mighty long time.
The Banjo Minnow will outfish every fishing lure in existence today.
We had made a fishing lure that actually made fish bite even if they weren't hungry.
And it works.
It's amazing, totally amazing.
I've not missed a fish on the Banjo Minnow.
Just is amazing. It's just unbelievable.
Have your credit card ready and call now to order the complete 110-piece Banjo fishing system. You get 24 Banjo Minnows in 3 different sizes and 4 colors. Banjo weedless bait hooks, counterbalanced jigs, and much, much more. All yours for only $29.95. For faster service, have your credit card ready and call the number on your screen right now.
This is your local forecast, weather information you can plan on, because we show it on the 8s of every hour. Local on the 8s on the Weather Channel. On Earth has better weather. Forecasts from the Weather Channel are also available from the following.
Time now to talk talk a little bit about some spring weather, and, well, let's see if we can find some out there. I see a lot of white on the map, indicating some snow. Fortunately, most of that, as you can see, is up here into Canada, but some of it kind of sneaking into the Watertown area, maybe up around Messina, and extending into some light snow into the Adirondacks as well. Looking at a little bit of snow also from the upper Midwest, stretching back out into the northern plain states. But none of this is really all that critical. We've seen a tremendous amount of snow here over the weekend. What's coming down now is very, very light. Not going to be a real big problem. A little bit of an upslope flow here, and that's producing some snow in some areas of Montana and northern Wyoming. And we'll find a few spring-like showers heading into the northwest. Earlier we had some showers into South Florida, but it appears as though most of those have dissipated. Still watching maybe for the development of a few thunderstorms here, although as the sun sets that will become less of a factor. However, as we go on into Tuesday, we'll have to watch some of these same areas maybe for some thunderstorms heading into the afternoon on Tuesday. So we'll be kind of keeping an eye on parts of the southwest as we head through time. I wanted to take you into the south and east first off and show you that an area of high pressure continues to kind of pull on southward. Remember, around a high we have a clockwise flow. It's just like the hands on your watch, so it tends to draw in some cooler air out of the north. And there, of course, is our frontal boundary. This would be the leading edge of some of the coldest air, some of the colder air. To the south of this front, it's still rather balmy. We're still talking about readings right now in the 70s. To the north of it, you'll find some 60s. Even further north, much cooler in Atlanta. Now, it wasn't just a few nights ago that we had temperatures during the evening hours into the 60s and 70s. We're into the 50s right now in Atlanta. 59 around Birmingham, 51 up around Nashville. And even as we go out toward Oklahoma City, heading into the southern plain states, mid-50s. Definitely cooler and definitely drier behind the cold front. We're looking at dew points in the teens and 20s and 30s behind the front, but still balmy in the 60s ahead of the front. Remember, dew point, the measurement of how much moisture is in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So much, much cooler air mass is now passed on through Atlanta, Georgia, than what you're experiencing around the Tampa area right now. As we put the satellite into motion, you'll be able to see the cluster of showers and thunderstorms moving across Lake Okeechobee and then kind of heading on out to sea and dying out. As we work our way into the southeast, clear skies here. Good view of the comet, by the way. It might be a little late now this evening, but earlier on, I understand, is a pretty good view. And if you haven't seen it, it's worth a view. You don't even need the telescope to see it. Heading into Texas, this is where we're finding that persistent southwesterly flow, and it's drawing in a lot of moisture. And we're finding the rain increasing around Harlingen, also around the Brownsville area, some light rain now, and Laredo is reporting some rain as well. Notice that the high, thin clouds are moving on northward and eastward. These will thicken up overnight, and you can pretty well bet that you're going to find some showers across this area heading through the overnight hours and certainly on into your Tuesday. It's going to be a wet one for Texas and pretty apt to stay that way. Here again, a look at some of the remaining showers into Florida. Some of them, as I mentioned, have kind of pushed off into the Atlantic. Maybe a couple more dotting the landscape here west of Orlando, but no big deal. Those should certainly be winding down. In the Pacific Northwest, a few snow showers here. The radar not very impressive. A few snow showers up around northern lower Michigan. Grand Rapids looking at some cool weather, and really so is all of the upper Midwest and northern plain states. You factor in the winds and it feels very cold. 18 is the wind chill in Chicago, 18 below the wind chill in Marquette, and it feels like 23 below heading up toward Fargo, North Dakota. Minneapolis around 9 below. So some nasty, nasty conditions up there. Folks still trying to shovel out from all the snow, and then you get the double whammy with the nasty wind chills. You have to endure the elements. Lots of cold air, as you can see, heading across the northern tier states. I'll step aside. I want you to see here into the southern portion, I should say, of New England. You're going to find maybe some 50s for this evening. This trend, we think, is going to be cool. It's going to be a cool trend for you across the northern tier with the warmest readings along the Gulf Coast. Now, when we return with WeatherScope, we'll go a little further into the future, take you into tomorrow's forecast, talk a little bit about the wet weather in Texas, and then beyond that, don't forget at 20 minutes past the hour, we'll take you through the next 5 days. We'll give you a better view of what to expect as we work our way into the weekend. We'll be right back.
The Wall Street Journal keeps you on the cutting edge with news and insight.
WeatherScope. Powerful winds batter the Great Lakes region, bringing down trees and power lines and dropping wind chills. We'll have the latest. And the rising water continues in the upper Midwest, where the flooding is just beginning in some areas. Those stories plus in-depth forecast and analysis on this edition of WeatherScope.
It's been a wind-blown Monday across much of the Great Lakes region. Hi, I'm Kristina Abernathy. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Mike Seidel. Thanks for watching tonight. The Dakotas and Minnesota continue to struggle after a weekend of flooding and a blizzard. And the windy weather continues. And we'll show you some of the effects of the wind from today. These strong winds blew down big trees and brought down power lines here in Grand Rapids on top of this car. Thousands of people were without power, and authorities say some areas may not get juice until sometime in the middle of the week. And here on nearby Lake Michigan near Muskegon, the wind sent waves crashing along the shoreline, raising concerns about beach erosion. It may have looked like a nice day for baseball here at County Stadium in Milwaukee, but don't be deceived. These folks are dressed up against wind chills of 15 to 16 degrees. The high only got up to around 40. Maybe a good day from the vantage point of this video, but it was cold, it was windy, but at least the sun was out. And the wind has been a big problem over the weekend and now into the first day of the work week and school week. The wind's continuing to whip in cool air, also pushing that front south, west and northwest winds. We'll talk about the rain continuing in Florida. And the return flow will have a big impact on your weather in Texas already. We'll show you the radar from the Weather Service coming up in a moment. First, though, back to the wind. Cold winds pouring colder air now into Boston and New York after your high today cracked 70 degrees. A pretty nice spring day in the northeast quarter. That's changing, and these cold winds are also knocking back the wind chills. As Kristina will show you, they've been averaging 15 to 20 below zero here in early April. Look at the big drop in temperature. Boy, this front has meant business, not as far as severe weather or a lot of rain or snow in the northeast, just the fact that it's turning much, much colder, down almost 30 degrees versus this time last night for those of you watching tonight in Buffalo and also Pittsburgh. So there's a definite chill in the air and a change as we go from spring back to late winter as far as the weather map looks tonight. Because we're talking about two big areas of high pressure, each one of those containing a pretty chilly air mass. This one has descended into the Tennessee Valley. Could be some frost in the Carolinas away from the coast. The front has moved off, and in the short term we have another one we'll discuss on the weather map for the next couple of days. But you can see the front has now moved off the east coast, so look for a pretty decent day tomorrow, but about 20 degrees colder in the northeast all the way from Boston back to D.C. and Baltimore. The front earlier today caused some problems around the Tampa Bay area with an inch and a half of rain, but as the evening has worn on, the temperatures have cooled down. We've lost the heating of the sun. Those showers and storms have pretty much wimped out. A few showers out there in extreme western Broward County. That is about it, but if you've got any kind of plans in southern Florida from Lake Okeechobee over to Fort Myers and the Florida Keys tomorrow, keep the umbrella handy. Keep an eye to the sky. A lot of clouds as that front sags into the southern part of the state. Talked about the high off through the Tennessee Valley. The return flow is coming in like this, and that is starting to pull up a lot of moisture from the Gulf and from Old Mexico. That sets the stage for showers and thunderstorms overnight, and the rain chances will stick around and be very high into the end of the week. So several days of rain in an area where you've already seen a whole lot of rain so far in 97. We're talking about a very wet ground, and it won't take much to cause flooding. And look, already heavy rains now crossing the Rio Grande from Laredo, heading up towards the San Antonio area and the lower Texas Gulf Coast. It's just going to be sopping wet for the rest of the week. This is all moving up towards Dallas and over towards Houston. Flooding is a concern because look at all the moisture continuing to move in. A storm will come out of the southwest. It will be a slow mover, so rain will be persistent, and we'll keep you posted on the flooding potential there. And you know what? The flooding, unfortunately, continues in the upper Midwest. That, combined with dangerous wind chills, has made life pretty nasty today. Let's get the latest from this part of the world. Here's Kristina.
All right, Mike. Well, today we had a little bit calmer weather in the upper Midwest, but it's still very cold, and the potential for flooding continues to be a concern. The St. Croix River near Minneapolis and St. Paul now is above flood stage and is expected to crest this weekend. This is the area around Stillwater, Minnesota, just east of the Twin Cities. Crews are preparing for the worst, hauling in sand in hopes of holding back the river water. The river is expected to crest at 4 feet above flood stage on Sunday. In western Minnesota, National Guard troops patrol the streets of Breckenridge. The town is covered with ice and slush. Breckenridge was battling floodwaters when the snowstorm hit this weekend. National Guard troops are driving doctors and nurses to work. Hundreds of people have been forced from their homes and are staying in makeshift shelters. Well, as we head to the western half of the country right now and into the Midwest as well, we don't see a lot going on as far as precipitation falling right now. However, into Minnesota and the Dakotas, we are definitely concerned about the threat of flooding here. Again, already occurring, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. You are getting a bit of snow here, but again, flooding is what we are keeping as our priority. The Northwest getting a little bit of wet weather here too, around Portland, maybe Salem. As far as snowfall, well, some of the higher elevations here could see snow, generally less than 3 inches, although a few areas could pick up a bit more than that. Temperatures right now, 56 Seattle, 66 in LA. Mild for the southern and eastern half of the country. To the north, a little cooler though. 19 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Combine the wind with that, you get the wind chill factor. 9 below is what it feels like there outside right now. What about our forecast, Mike?
Okay, Christina, getting into Tuesday, it's not going to be much better. Those of you looking for spring in the Midwest, Minneapolis, Chicago, forget it. Cold air. One air mass came in over the weekend. We had the blizzard, and now you're dealing with another mass of chilly air from the hinterland of Canada. So it's going to stay mighty chilly. Layers of clothing. Put the shorts away for now. Even in the Northeast, where it was a lovely day today, Tuesday about 20 to 25 degrees cooler, but it will be sunny, and certainly you won't be digging out of a 2-foot snowstorm like you were last Wednesday morning in the Boston area, Tuesday and Wednesday. A few flurries in western New England. The front drops south. The first front hangs up in southern Florida, so those of you south of Lake Okeechobee, Miami, Fort Myers, the Keys, could be a shower. But the real threat of heavy rainfall and the possibility of locally strong storms in Texas, Dallas, Houston, back towards San Antonio. Heavy rainfalls here on ground, which has taken in a lot of water so far this season. And look out for the potential for flooding over the next several days as the rains continue. Winds upslope. We squeeze out the moisture in the front range with snow there. A windy day in the Bay Area, but dry. Look out, we already showed you the rain now moving into southern Texas. It will continue tonight through the rest of the week. Snowfall at a premium. Look at the temperatures overnight tonight. We are talking about sub-zero cold in April. Very, very cold stuff and icy wind chills. Not much better tomorrow in the Midwest and Plains as the flooding there continues. Even though we're not getting a lot of melting right now, Christina, we'll be watching that. Plus, the rain's continuing to move into Texas. We'll check your Weather Service radar there again throughout the half hour. Stay with us.